Hello there.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Who Dat Jedi podcast. This is episode 238 for your record books. My name's Aaron. With me, as always, the other members of the Who Dat Jedi Council, Dave and Fredo. Hi, guys.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Salutations.
Oh, that was kind of appropriate, Dave.
Hello there.
Given our topic for tonight, because we're going to be talking Obi-Wan tonight. The Obi-Wan series, which came out, 3 years ago now? 2 years ago. 3 years ago.
I think.
I don't know how long. Been a while. But basically, we'll talk about why, but it's just kind of a time to revisit it. It's like, things aren't always as... It's been 3 years ago. Are things as good as you remember it or as bad as you remember it type of a deal. So we're just going to get in the DeLorean and check out some things. But until then, I have to ask you guys, have you ever been so excited for a tie in all of your life? That was the most exciting ending of any preseason game I have ever watched. If you didn't see the Saints, who the heck did we play?
Jaguars.
Yeah, the Jags. Saints-Jags game. It was funny because I was sitting there in the stands and I told the people around, I said, we're down by 8. We're going to score and then 2-point conversion. I'm now 3 days old in knowing that preseason games can't go into overtime. But I thought we were going to go to overtime. But no, it just ends in a tie. And like I said, that was just the most exciting thing ever. Maybe
Can
not.
I be honest? I missed it entirely. I was in Houston visiting family, and so I missed it completely.
I guess my takeaway is that the quarterbacks are really even. The two who we thought were going to be competing for this thing are really even, and it was good to see Rattler step up a little bit. And it leaves a better taste in your mouth than just getting your butt whooped, which is where they were headed for 3 quarters.
Obviously, take what I said with a grain of salt, but it was but at the end of preseason games, you were generally sitting there going, all right, can we please all just go home? But that was an exciting ending. It was an exciting ending. So, and we're playing against, the schlubs. We're playing against the schlubs, so whatever. But actually, guy from the town that Brittany and I lived in Nebraska, Stallbird, he is making a name for himself. He played last year, but special teams and linebacker. So he was a kid from Kearney, Nebraska. So went to...
And speaking of Nebraska connections, the Jaguars may have tied the game, but they took something from New Orleans with them when they left.
Yeah, one of our players.
Yeah. How's that a Nebraska connection?
Wasn't he from Nebraska?
Saunders? No.
Oh, okay.
No.
For some reason, I thought he was.
No.
He danced like a guy from Nebraska, or at least his brother does.
Dances like a guy. Have you seen people in Nebraska dance? Have you seen me dance? I'm from Nebraska. I don't dance like Colin Saunders' brother, even close. So...
Anyway, so unfortunately, he done left us. The Jaguars said, he's good. We'll take him. We'll take him with us, and we'll leave you on offensive lineman because, from what I gather, our offensive line looked not quite pathetic, but more disastrous, which is not a good sign for the season. So preseason.
I don't think preseason is a sign for the season at all. It's just like we don't have all of our starters out and everything. You're watching a glorified scrimmage. So
did Alvin Kamara play at all in this game?
No.
Yeah. And then that's the other thing. It's like you're not at a point where if you're a Cam Jordan, Alvin Kamara, those guys, you're not playing a moment of preseason.
Yeah.
Because they know you're going to be ready to go for week 1. So.
But what an exciting ending! What an exciting ending! Anyway, yeah. So is Dave frozen or is he just deep in thought? Right. Oh, he was deep in thought. Okay, because it looked like he was frozen. I was going to have you take a screenshot, Fredo.
Dave exists for those moments where he just becomes pensive and looks into the distance. So yeah,
That wasn't the look you
looks.
had, Dave. I was looking straight up your nose is what it was. So anyway, and I shared with you guys one of the most probably horrific things we've ever seen. There was some cover band that actually covered Jedi Rocks. At San Diego Comic-Con. I think at this, at least I saw the hash. I think it was at San Diego Comic-Con. But yeah, they did Jedi Rocks, and I didn't know if I should be. I didn't know if I was enjoying it or wanted to throw my phone through a window. But yeah.
So apparently during San Diego Comic-Con they were doing it basically was like a script reading of the Return of Jedi script. So that's where Jedi Rocks come from. Did you see who they got to do the lines from the Emperor?
No.
That was the one and only Clancy Brown, aka for those 80s kids, he is the Kurgan from Highlander. For people from the 90s, he was one of the doctors in ER. For most of the young people, he is Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob SquarePants and or Lex Luthor from the animated series. Which is, I'm like, that's such a great person to get to do that voice, but also not the voice I would expect the Emperor to have. But yeah, apparently they did a whole. Yeah, I guess I would call it a table reading, but they weren't. They were standing and they were doing it on a stage.
Well, when you talk about voices you wouldn't expect, what about John Lithgow doing Yoda for the radio series of Empire Strikes Back? I mean that. However, the best thing I ever saw was I think it was at Comic-Con once. They had the guy who does the voice of Winnie the Pooh, and he was doing all the lines. It was the opening scene in A New Hope, and he was doing all the lines, Darth Vader's lines, and but as Winnie the Pooh, and it was just perfect. Yeah, so that would be worth the price of admission.
You get the opportunity in those moments for that, and that's only where it can happen.
So, anyway, yeah, okay. Well, like I said, tonight we're gonna be we got a little bit of news, but we're gonna talk about Obi-Wan, and was it as good or as bad as people think? And we'll get into more of that later, but let's do some trivia to start off. All right, Drew from the front of the deck today, guys. All right, Fredo, softball right to you. Knock this one out of the park. Ooh, but this might be a tricky one as I read it. Who dismisses Obi-Wan as an old fossil? I thought it was a softball. This is this trick question. I don't know.
It's a softball. Go ahead and read it again.
Who dismisses Obi-Wan as an old fossil?
That would be the one and only Han Solo, who asked Luke Skywalker, "Where did you dig up that old fossil?"
But he leads it with, "Boy, you said it, Chewie. Where did you dig up that old fossil?" So the answer is Han Solo, according to the Trivial Pursuit, but because of the way that line is phrased, if I was running trivia, if somebody came up to me with a pitchfork saying it's Chewbacca, I might give them that answer.
Yeah,
so.
Chewie could qualify.
Yeah.
I agree.
By the way, another great thing, go on YouTube and find any time where they have, you can actually hear Peter Mayhew's voice saying lines before they dubbed in that is perfect as well. Especially when he's on top of the Millennium Falcon and Empire Strikes Back. It's just awesome. All right. So, Dave.
Well, actually, I don't think Chewbacca would qualify then, because if you listen to that dubbing from that scene, he says, "That old man's mad."
Oh, that's true.
That old man's mad.
That's true. All right. Man, we just went from nerdy to like uber nerdy. We just leveled up. Nerd. Jeez. All right. Oh, come on. All right. Now this, if the last one was a softball, Dave, you're playing t-ball here. Okay. as a 11th grader. You're playing t-ball as an 11th grader. All right. What color is the glove that Luke wears over his damaged hand? What color is the glove that Luke wears over his damaged hand?
I'm going to go with black on this one.
It would be black. Yep.
All right.
By the way, sometime we're actually going to have to play the Trivial Pursuit game, actually,
in
because
real time.
it becomes. I've played it one time head to head with another big Star Wars, and it becomes like, can you route the person, because everybody knows. Anyway, it'd be
can you get every question right and just win on the first turn? Yeah.
Unlike any other Trivial Pursuit game I have ever played. Okay. To me, who asked Princess Leia, will you join me for a little refreshment? Who asked Princess Leia? Oh, Fredo, don't give that look, because Dave got what color of glove did Luke Skywalker put over his damaged hand? Anyway, who asked Princess Leia, will you join me for a little refreshment? That would be Lando Calrissian. It is Lando. Hooray.
Which is different than asking her if you'd like to join me for a little refresher.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. Well, Fredo, you said we have a little bit of news, huh?
Yeah, just one
sad
bit of
news.
Sad news, unfortunately. So on Sunday, it was announced that actor Terrence Stamp, best known to us in Star Wars as the doomed Chancellor Valorum of Episode 1, but more likely better known to everybody for either his roles as General Zod in the first two Superman films or for The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, had passed away. He was 87. According to his family, they announced born in 1938 in London. He had gone to the Douglas Academy of Dramatic Art, had been in theater before he started a whole career in movies, including stuff like Young Guns, The Limey, which if you've never seen is really good, the original Haunted Mansion, Valkyrie, Last Night in Soho. Like I said, I think for most of us who are aware of him, we know him as either Bernadette from The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert from 1994, which earned him a nomination for a Golden Globe and a BAFTA, as well as General Zod, the original
Kneel
villain
before
from Superman.
Zod. Yes, that's
Exactly.
that's where I knew him from. And didn't he coin the phrase Cleveland? Isn't that Superman 2? Superman 2?
Yeah, Houston.
Houston.
Planet
The
Houston.
planet Houston.
Kneel before Zod!
I thinking of the character of Chancellor Valorum. If I could go back and just change some things, I wish he would have been Chancellor into the beginning of Episode 2, and then Palpatine does his thing and take over, and then suddenly brings in the clones, that type of a thing, like he's been working on. I don't know. I just think that was a character that just kind of, and an actor that was just kind of wasted. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, because he had such a, just had such a presence. But like I said, General Zod, that was a great villain in the Superman movies. Yeah.
Mhm. An original character too, wholly created for the movies, which then was funnily enough adapted into the comic books and then brought back into the movies with Michael Shannon a decade or so ago for Man of Steel. So it kind of shows you the impact that you can have. That character didn't start on the comic book page, but he brought it to the forefront and made it what it was. Yeah, it's thinking of Chancellor Valorum. It would have been interesting to at least have seen. I mean, at least I've seen at least a couple of scenes between him and Ian McDermott's Palpatine. Have seen some of the stuff that we got to see in Andor with the politicking and whatnot.
Yeah.
To have seen him going at it, try to avoid Palpatine's kind of end around him in order to take him out. Would have been fun, but again, I kind of get it. That's a lot of people complaining about a lot of talking in Star Wars movies back then.
I need to back up. Cleveland was from Howard the Duck.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
I was mixing up my 80s movies. Sorry, my bad.
Did you when you guys saw him in episode one, did you recognize him right away, or did that come after the fact?
Yeah, no, I knew who it was. Yeah.
I didn't realize he was General Zod. It was a buddy of mine. I was watching it with him, like on VHS later on.
I have a feeling my
Uh,
brother probably was the one that, I mean, because my brother was huge into Superman and everything. So when he found out Terrence Stamp was going to be in it, it was, but yeah.
Yeah, then it was a big deal, right? And I didn't really recognize the name. Um, I guess I wasn't a big enough Superman 2 fan. But yeah, it was kind of an odd performance in that context of thinking of him as Zod, because as Zod on screen, he was sort of in command and just comfortable. He felt like he very comfortable in his own skin, and Valorum seemed very uncomfortable and very unsure of himself. And that's how you know that this man could act.
Yeah.
And in many ways, he represented the state of the Republic at that point, where somebody like Palpatine could just kind of manufacture this crisis, and everybody are in the Senate was just like, we don't know how to respond to this. You know, Queen Amidala, would you be okay with just kind of us try to do our investigations? And I'm not necessarily saying that I see a lot of similarities in today's day and age, but sometimes that stuff kind of hits close to home, and I go like, you want action, you want action more than unfortunately you get at the time. So
But 87 is a good run. 87's a good
yep.
run. So, um, yeah, and that's what Dave. You said you weren't as much of a Superman 2 fan, or just and that was
Well, I don't think I was as big of an aficionado
right.
of the man's work in
that
general.
but that's one that that's like the go-to for like the classic Superman. That's I know my brother sent me the Donner cut for Christmas one time.
Yep.
I mean, there's this was before who did Justice League?
Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder.
Jack Snyder, the Snyder. That was before the Snyder cut was the Donner cut was the vernacular, but just Superman 2. Yeah, it was. I mean, they tend to lean on that one. So
It's a good one. I'm very familiar with the movie. It's just like I couldn't tell you the actors who played the other two bad guys in that movie off the top of my
Ursa
head.
and,
Yeah, I couldn't
I
tell
probably
you.
could I probably could tell you who Ursa was just because I saw her in so many other B movies throughout the 80s. I think she was like in the original Swamp Thing, those kinds of things. So that's the thing. It's like a lot of these actors were like, okay, filling out smaller roles in this big production. We tend to forget that Superman production, Superman 1 and 2, they were being filmed at the same time. That was the whole point. The whole
Yeah.
idea was they were going to come out one in 1978, and I think the other was supposed to come out in 1979, like one after the other. So, but Richard Donner basically worked himself to exhaustion. Got to about 60% of Superman 2, and then finally said, I need to finish one movie before I burn out. So they shelved Superman 2, finished Superman 1, and then the Salkinds, the producers, kind of said, okay, good. We'll get Richard Lester to finish Superman 2, and then he directed Superman 3, which we don't talk about because, that's a Richard Pryor movie.
That movie's
More than a
bad.
Superman. Yeah. Kids, if you think modern superhero movies are bad, you have not seen some of the bad stuff of the past.
That one's bad.
Superman 3 Quest for Peace.
No, that
No,
was
no, no.
four.
Oh, that was
That's
4.
four.
Okay.
Not
Yeah.
even. Yeah, Superman 3 is the one where they replace Lex Luthor. They give Superman, for some reason, as Richard Pryor as both an enemy as a sidekick. It is famous for two things. One, that's the one where they have Superman have bad kryptonite, which is laced with nicotine that turns him evil.
Yep.
And then he has to
He has
Clark
to fight
Kent has to fight.
himself. Yeah.
And then there's one scene where one of the characters, the main villains, which was what's his name? The man from Uncle. I'm forgetting his name now. Anyway, his sister gets turned into a cyborg by this computer, and I just remember every kid in the theater just panicking at
That was
that
me,
moment.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like you see like all like getting all electroshock and metal parts are attaching to her and whatnot. You're like, okay, body horror for 10-year-olds, groovy.
Yeah, yeah. You watch that nowadays as an adult, and you just like, oh my god, so that's so cheesy, right? But that was like horror fuel for anybody under a certain age when that movie came out. I mean, man, that was bad. I think I had nightmares for like a month after that. It's like you can get eaten by a computer, like, oh my god, no, no.
But going back to the Terrence Stamp thing, I mean, his line has, kind of become even, well, the line "kneel before Zod," has been taken out of the Superman context. If somebody says that, you know what you're talking about. So, yeah.
Kneel before Zod!
But
It speaks to. I mean, there's a whole period in the late 70s, early 80s when British actors, theater actors, drama actors, serious actors were being taken because of either financial issues or because they needed to earn a earn a living. They were being hired by Hollywood for all these kind of outlandish roles. I mean, everything from Alec Guinness in the original Star Wars to Sir Lawrence Olivier in Clash of the Titans. And you're like, okay, I mean, sure, we'll throw everybody, anybody with a degree from a theater school in London into a movie production, and didn't matter if it was sci-fi, fantasy, whatever. They all got to eat, so you know. So you end up with really serious speaking thespians delivering some rather cheesy lines.
well, rest in peace. Another, yeah.
Indeed.
So, all right. Well, let's move into Obi-Wan. I'll tell you how this started. Because Britt and
Long
I
time
were
ago,
Britt and I were going on a trip to Colorado, and I was loading up the iPad, so because you never know if the plane you're going to be on has the screen on this cushion in front of you, or if so I always load up my iPad to bring my own just in case. And so I was like, let's watch Obi-Wan again. It's been a while, and so I downloaded the series and I watched it. On it was a long flight, and then just as I was, sitting around in the mornings and stuff like that, and I was I just really enjoyed the series, but it just didn't jive with me because so many people are so critical of the series, and so I was like, we gotta talk about this, so I don't know, have you guys rewatched it since, or clips or anything, or?
Yeah, I binged it one year after it had been released. So like you were asking earlier, like, what year did it come out? It was 2022. So it's been out for 3 years.
Yeah, I remember they were filming during COVID because everybody's masked up. But so your initial reaction on that binge, what was your thought when you watched it?
Yeah, I liked it. I think it works. I think it works really well. And this is something I think I've harped on this show a couple of times now, but you could see the seams where it would have worked really, really well as a movie. But I think ultimately the series works too. Contrary to some public opinion on the matter, I think it really works.
And we do have one public opinion, and we found one article we'll talk about here in a little bit that is going to be kind of our guide points, but it's 10 worst things about the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So we're just going to kind of, like Dave said, counterpoint it. But Fredo, when was the last time you watched any of this?
Last night.
All right, on. Cool.
I came back and I figured, okay, if we're going to talk about it, let's watch it with fresh eyes. I found it interesting. Trying to binge watch it, trying to watch it all together in one go, as possibly as a movie, 6-hour movie, may not have been the smartest idea. But I did recognize that I found on second viewing that it starts slow, much more slowly than I thought it did. Particularly that first two episodes take their while to get going. And maybe about the second half of episode two, once Obi-Wan rescues Leia in the planet, and he's being chased by the Inquisitors. That's when things kind of pick up, and from then on, there's energy that carries it through to the end. But that particular first episode did kind of drag on slowly, and I don't know if it's because it's trying to give us a setting for where Obi-Wan is mentally and emotionally, but I did really find myself going like, okay, get on with it, kind of a thing. But once it gets going, it's fine.
So, however, that makes me think about, before we dive into the list here, it does make me think that maybe these Star Wars series that have been, or even Marvel series that have, been kind of panned, because they've been releasing one episode a week, and people have a week to sit in their feelings, if they did the Netflix version and just dump all the episodes at once so that people can digest it all at once, if things would get better reviews. Because as I was moving from episode to episode, I found myself more engaged. It was, I don't know, it seemed to work even better in that respect.
Well, I was going to bring up the example of Andor, because that's what we had with every arc. We had the 3 episode arcs, all 3 being released every week, and I think that worked that much better. Maybe for that story specifically, I don't know if it worked for every other show, but I think that worked tremendously well because it gave you kind of a completed story every week
Yeah.
that then interconnected across the season, so you felt like you were getting everything that you needed to know week to week.
Might have to do this with the Acolyte next. It's been a while since I've watched that, but just to watch it all at once. I don't know. Before we get into the points, Dave, what do you think? Do you think Obi-Wan would have benefited from dumping all 6 episodes at once, or maybe not?
I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about that, but I will say that I do think it works well in one block. I think I broke it up in about half. Like I said, I binged it, but
Right.
I think that was over 2 days.
It was the same thing with me with my flights and everything. It wasn't, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get into the list. And like I said, there's a few things on the list here there's a few things that aren't on the list that I think we need to talk about, and we'll get to that after we get it. But this is from what is CRUD? What does CBR stand for? Comic book what? Something
Resources.
Anyway, CBR.com. An article here, and it says, like I said, 10 worst things about the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Not going to read you their intro or anything, but at number 10, we have Qui-Gon's appearance at the end was undeserved. And so yeah, Qui-Gon's appearance in the end was undeserved. Dave's laughing and has something to say.
I read through this, right. I read through the first couple of these items. And then in disgust, I closed the window because I was like, I can't read any more of this. And also, if you surprise me with something tonight and I get even angrier, it might make for good podcasting. But this was just absurd. What are you talking about? Oh, it's not earned or whatever. Like, come the heck on. Like, that's the whole... that's the point of the show. The point of the show is that Obi-Wan is not connecting with the Force, and he's not keeping up with his training, and he's not doing these things.
And Qui-Gon says that to him at the end. Is like, you weren't ready. You were right. And here's my thing that's kind of tangential to this is that people really didn't have an issue with where Obi-Wan was in this series, but you put Luke Skywalker in the same situation basically in The Last Jedi, and it's like you ruined their entire life because it was mirrored. That's Obi-Wan was going through the exact same thing that Luke was in The Last Jedi. And he shut himself off to the Force. So did Luke. He was telling Jedi's like, that way is done. Forget about it. You know, and even the Jedi says to him, what happened to you? Blah, blah. You know, it's like, but Luke does the same thing. And like I said, it's like we've committed some sort of sin. But anyway, but yeah, I didn't think that if they would have introduced, well, yeah, I think you're right. It's Obi-Wan had to go through his trials again to find his way before he can connect. So, yeah.
I feel like you're misreading the text deliberately if you don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much of that story, it's about Obi-Wan finding himself again. And part of that journey is reconnecting with the Force.
It's
in a
Mufasa
way in which
saying,
he hadn't.
remember who you are.
Right, right. And again, we tend to, because the same arguments happen with Luke regarding Last Jedi. We tend to want to imbue these heroic figures with kind of superhuman resilience, like, oh, they can overcome anything, no way they would fall to despair. It's interesting that both of them fell to despair after they found themselves alone. They found themselves with nothing. They found themselves with all their hopes and dreams dashed and wrecked by the very students they trained. For Obi-Wan, it was Anakin. For Luke, it was Ben. And so naturally, it makes sense that he would feel somewhat detached from everything that he was before, because everything he was before led him to this point. But also, we tend to forget, he is strong in the Force, and he's trying to hide from Force people who hunt Force users. So, what's the easiest way to avoid Force hunters? Cut yourself off from the Force. Just go away. Don't think about it, because his entire goal is to not bring attention to Luke. His entire goal is protect Luke. And right now, Luke is safe in the Lawrence farmstead because he is not sticking up like a big old shining beacon in the Force. But that might change if other Force users are attracted to him.
Okay, so I think we all agree that number 10 was bunk. So,
Yep.
and with all due respect to whoever wrote this article, but anyway. Number 9, the direction was uninspiring and generic. And I'm going to read one quote. It said, Obi-Wan Kenobi lacked the Lucas feel from the moment it began, and few shots really stood out to viewers. Additionally, the lightsaber battles lacked the emotion and weight of the original trilogy and the incredible choreography in the prequel trilogy. All right, so first of all, I guess this kind of gets into a little bit of one of the things he's not talking about directly, but people criticize the way the volume was used in Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it does seem video gamey and confined. I made that comment, I think, to you guys and to Britt. I said everything feels like claustrophobic, and maybe that was supposed to be. I mean, but yet, he was either in a cave or he was in the Inquisitor's temple. Everything was always just kind of confined. So, you didn't have the Lawrence of Arabia, grand vistas. So I'll give him that. But the lightsaber battles were uninspiring and lacked emotion. That's a bunch of crap. I'll pass it off to Dave here. So
I think you're really, really selling Ewan's performance short when you say something like that, because I thought that Ewan conveyed so much emotion in those moments. And I'm sorry, the original trilogy's lightsaber battles were boring. Yeah.
I mean,
a little bit
as a 52-year after seeing all the Star Wars stuff that we've seen, of all the lightsaber battles, those are boring now. But
Thor's not very good. The emotional stakes you can kind of understand. You see, where it's headed. Obi-Wan is going to sacrifice himself. So it's like there's that like that tiny little level of tension underneath that fight. The Empire fight is fine.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi's fight is kind of disappointing, other than the emotion involved in it, which again you credit Mark Hamill and John Williams for a lot of that. Here, I wanted to say one thing, which is that the showrunner, Deborah Chow, she doesn't have anything dangling between her legs, as far as we know, and thusly, she is more open to more criticism as a Star Wars creator than other people. And I don't know that was the case with this particular article, but it's still the kind of thing that pops into my mind when people get maybe a little bit more aggressive in their critiques. Just like, well, why? Well, I'm really trying to tear this thing down.
Yeah.
Well, okay, why? There were women involved. I mean, that's one of the things that again, if the writer were here to defend themselves and they said, like, no, that's not what was going on for me.
It's
here,
like,
right?
what's different here? Yeah, you're right.
Right. I would say, okay, cool. Why did you hate it as much as you did? Well, I outlined the reasons, and it's like, well, you're stretching. You're stretching here. Again, this is not.
I mean, I don't know what
these are emotional fights that are going on.
I mean, Vader is dragging Obi-Wan through flames. You know, their final battle is incredible.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's not jumping, spinning, lightsaber. But that's not what this is about. So, yeah, I don't know, Fredo.
Okay, so let me separate my two thoughts, because you just put another thought in my head, Aaron. I wonder if we would be thinking about the directing of this show if it had been the first thing that would have come out of Star Wars and Disney Plus. Would we have been more accepting, more in all of it, the fact that they were able to get it done for the budget, the limitations that the volume and everything else kind of gives you. Because I do wonder if maybe by that point, by 2022, I mean, it clearly feels that way, that we've kind of grown wise to the trickery of the volume, and we can see the seams better, and thus we are looking for that whole grand cinematic experience that the movies give us. I mean, again, it's got to be interesting to see how Mando and Grogu deal with it next year when there's supposed to be a movie and that you're not supposed to just be on the volume on a small screen, on a cell phone, or a computer screen. Um, Overall, the directing, I didn't have a problem with the directing per se. I did notice a few instances where you're like, okay, this is clearly filmed in a lot. But here's the thing, I don't judge it negatively for that, just because I go, that is the nature of what they're making. They're making a TV show. You know, I'm thinking, nobody whines about, any other sci-fi or fantasy property, however much money they're spending, when you see the seams, where you see the limitations, where, okay, these are the same 10 actors on the same 10 big stage. Okay, yeah, because that's all you can do. You're not building, you may be world building, but you're not literally building a whole world outside their walls, kind of a thing. Um, Regarding the action directing, I think there were a few moments where you can kind of tell some of the stuff kind of, and it's one of the points we'll get to later. Some of the stuff could have been done better. Maybe a few choices could have been made that could have added something to it. But overall, again, it's the whole point is to tell a story. Yes, it's a visual medium. Yes, it'd be nice if everything looked like you had just spent $500 million on a movie set, but they're not going to do that. So overall, I didn't think it was the end of the world. But I do wonder if maybe, kind of like you pointed it out, Aaron, if maybe by this point we have grown accustomed to the volume, and maybe they have to go back to the drawing board a bit and kind of try to find a new way to trick our eyes, because we're seeing it now for what it is.
And also, I will say, before we move on to the next one, is that you're not going to get the prequel leapy, jumpy lightsaber fights, because if you've ever seen anybody in a Darth Vader costume,
yeah,
it limits your movement. And so, you don't need to leapy if the guy you're fighting can't movie all that well. So anyway, But
And they're older. It makes sense story-wise that they won't be leaping around anymore. This is 10 years after the fact-ish. So they're like, okay, we're going to rely on our knowledge of the Force. And it's more of that wizard's duel that you
right.
see at the end of Attack of the Clones. It just makes sense story-wise. And I'll say one other thing. It's like, we talked about the budget, right? Do not discount that most of the money here went into the cast.
Yeah.
I mean, just getting Ewan back, they had to back up the Brinks truck just to be able to bring him back in the first place. So, again, grain of salt with some of this, because it's like, oh, well, shouldn't it just be good? I shouldn't care about the budget, but it's like, well, it adjusts your expectation level, I think, going in. When I went into this show, I didn't expect to be blown away by the effects and the sets and some of the staging and things of that nature. But that's just me.
Number 8, Hayden Christensen was wasted. And we don't mean like on alcohol or drugs. It's just they didn't use him enough. And I'm just like, didn't he play? He was Vader in the suit. I mean,
Yes, he was.
I mean,
By the way-
and by the way, this
can I
was
get-
not, I'm just going to say this story was not about Anakin. It was about Darth Vader. Fredo?
Yeah. No, I was going to time out and say Hayden was threw out the first pitch at the Cubs game last week. Did you notice the jersey number they gave him?
Yeah. 66.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I'm just like, okay, whichever Star Wars geek works for the Cubs, hat tip to you because you got it right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's totally fine. I didn't think that Hayden was wasted. I think, they did, because basically Hayden's involvement involves that flashback scene where we see him being trained by Obi-Wan, where, this is Attack of the Clones Hayden, where he still or Anakin, where he still thinks he knows everything about the Force, and he keeps getting schooled by Obi-Wan. And then the introduction, when we get back, that third episode, when Vader comes down that street being a total monster. I'm sorry. People were clamoring to see that. Ever since Rogue One, people are like, we need more of this Vader. We need more of this. He is literally snapping the necks of parents in front of their children.
Well,
He is being a total terror. And I'm like, what are you talking about him being wasted? It's
I will
exactly
tell you
what we wanted.
that the last scene where half of his helmet's gone, and it's a combination of James Earl Jones and Hayden Christensen. That scene alone is worth the price of admission. I mean, that was fantastic. I don't think he was first of all, it's called Obi-Wan Kenobi, folks. Second of all, like I said, it's not about Anakin per se. So, but Dave,
I feel like we could have skipped right over this because I can't even dignify this with a response. It's like it's not his story. He's just playing a supporting role here. And by the way, he's horribly disfigured and he was wearing the armor. So it's like, story wise, he's not taking the armor off. It doesn't make sense. So moving forward.
all right. Well, number 7 seems to be like we only have 9. We need to put something else in here. But actually, I think this is actually a problem with the volume. But number 7, the chase scenes were hard to believe. And I'll read 2 sentences here. It says, there are 2 chase scenes in Obi-Wan Kenobi, both involving the young Princess Leia, that didn't feel right. In the first scene, Leia evades a group of bounty hunters who lose sight of the fleeing princess in the midst of a light jog. The second scene is even more incomprehensible as Leia tries to escape through a secret passageway and Reva tracks her down by discovering a hidden door. Somehow, Reva teleports to the tunnel exit and kidnaps Leia. So, I mean, okay, you got a point, but that doesn't make this whole series awful. I actually wondered that. How did Reva get ahead of Leia in that tunnel? But I also quickly forgot it. And a problem with the volume and the sets, and people have mentioned this like in Skeleton Crew as well. It's like they it's like a 50% old man jog when you're chasing after kids, type of a deal, and it's because you have limited space. So, but again, it's like, yeah, you notice it, but it's like, is that really what you're staying up at night worrying about? But anyway.
Yeah, I was thinking about this yesterday as I was watching. Particularly, I didn't have a problem with the chase with Riva, just simply because I'm always like, okay, she's an inquisitor chasing a little girl. She's smarter, battle trained. She knows what she needs to be doing. Leia is just running for her life. Uh, the first chase, maybe a bit more because yeah, you can kind of see they're kind of half jogging. You're like, and I kind of thought there were two easy ways to resolve that. One way was to maybe digitally add more foliage, more forest, make it more of a okay. She's trying to use her knowledge of the surroundings and kind of like getting away. Kind of sneaking underneath brambles and bushes and
And by
kind
the
of a
way, that's
thing.
what little kids do. Little kids can get through nooks and crannies like that old guys like us can't. Anyway, go ahead.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
But that's my point. Make it even more obvious that this isn't just a kind of a nice, clean forest. Make it more like, say, something out of like Pan's Labyrinth or something like that. Something dark and menacing. The other thing that would have been perhaps the easier solution would have been to say that they were half stepping it by design. That they were not necessarily trying to capture her, they were trying to drive her towards a point where she could be caught away from the guards and everything. Again, it would have taken a line just simply she runs and there's the lead kidnapper going like, okay, we drove, we brought you here because this is where we wanted you to be, and then boom, grab her, kind of a thing.
Fredo, you just
That would
did a
have solved
really
everything.
good job at making this guy feel good about putting number 7 on the list. I mean, it's
Again, half good because I'm accepting one of his two, not two, not both of them.
I just think my wife and I went on a hike in the mountains a week and a half ago, and if a 10-year-old girl had suddenly appeared and had tried to evade me down the mountain, she would have got away. I wouldn't. No, like I wouldn't have been able to keep up. First of all, and second of all, I would have been so worried about keeping my footing so that I didn't fall and seriously injure myself that I would have been okay with that, And I think like that was sort of the vibe I got from those dudes chasing her, which is just like, yeah, adults, they're worried about breaking their hip. They're not as worried about, diving through roots and ducking under tree branches and things. They're just trying not to slip and throw out their back or something.
Good news, everyone! I'm in terrible pain.
Okay, number 6. Vader leaving Riva alive was obvious plot armor. Okay, I want to know what plot armor is. But anyway, it says, after being burned alive and losing all 4 limbs, fans would expect Darth Vader to be thorough in ensuring that his enemies are dead. As a result, Vader stabbing Riva in the abdomen and leaving her alive comes across as a lazy plot armor instead of something a ruthless Dark Lord would do. This is especially true after the Grand Inquisitor survived a stab wound in the abdomen from Riva a few days prior. Now, if I have a problem with this, it's that Qui-Gon Jinn gets skewered and he dies. Everybody else who has been rammed through with a lightsaber through the gut has lived. That bothers me in the whole grand universe
they
of
turned down
Star
the settings
Wars.
from the lightsaber after Qui-Gon.
So
They turned the setting down.
So anyway, I will say that this was. I mean, he has a little bit of a point here. I think they could have handled, if either he totally leaves her, just kills her, or do something where he thinks that she's dead, like a bunch of rocks fall on her, like he did with Obi-Wan, type of a deal, So I'll give him a little bit of leniency on this one.
I think the solution to this issue would have been, because like for me, that's one of my only critiques of the show is that he sort of leaves her alive, and you're like, yeah, you can see why. She's done for. Moving right along. I've got bigger fish to fry. I gotta go get Obi-Wan for one. It's still kind of like, couldn't it taken an extra 5 seconds to chop her head off or something? I think you solve that story-wise by creating two characters where to occupy the role that she occupied. Because I think like it's such a cool moment to have Obi-Wan sort of outwit Anakin in this way and turn the acolyte, for lack of a better term, against the master, and so that he can escape. And I thought that was, I love that moment for him. I would never want to lose that moment, right? But it does feel like that person, once that decision had been made, that person should die. And I think, like, to me, the solution was, well, that's two characters, not just one, playing that sort of role of antagonist in this story. So one of them gets dispatched in that way, and the other one is able to continue onward towards Tatooine and handle their business there. And you could have written it in such a way that wouldn't be that difficult to pull that off. But yeah, I would hate to lose that moment just for the fact that Obi-Wan was able to turn them against one another, and I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I didn't have a problem. I mean, rewatching it, I didn't have a problem with Vader immobilizing Reva, but not necessarily killing her because, again, let's face it, he could have killed her any time. I mean, he has moments where he's ready to just kill her, you know. But here, when she finally confronts, because that's been her entire goal. That's her goal from day one. She's chasing Obi-Wan to get to Vader, to get Vader
Right.
all alone, so she can enact her vengeance for everything that has happened to her. And so Vader knows full well, probably better than anybody. In many ways, this is one of the things that really struggle with some people when they discuss the show. Reva mirrors Anakin. Reva, in many ways, it's not necessarily a clone, but a shadow reflection of Anakin. She was a Jedi student who was turned to the dark side by the events of the Clone Wars and Order 66. Now she's looking to inflict that pain back on its source. For Vader, that source was Obi-Wan. For Reva, it's Anakin, or in this case, Vader. Um, and so I think the idea that Vader, in that moment of triumph, okay, I could kill you. I could kill you anytime I want. You are no threat to me. I'm just gonna leave you here because I got bigger fish to fry. Yeah, that's in keeping with Vader. Let us remember, he's the guy who turned around so the Millennium Falcon hit light speed at the end of Empire, looked, turn away, look back, and then just said, okay, we'll get him next time. He's fine with letting his prey get away because he knows he's inevitable. He's eventual. He'll get them.
Number 5. The 6-episode format limited the story. So, I think, first of all, Dave, you said it, well, actually, you both said it, that this would have been probably better served as a movie, which means that you would have gotten less content.
Yes.
So, and I think that's actually the general consensus, is that everybody would have rather have seen this as a movie. So you would have gotten less content. So I don't understand how it limits the story, because there was some kind of repetition, like, okay, we're chasing again. It's like you said, you saw the seams and it was like you had to get the Play-Doh to, stretch things a little bit. So I don't necessarily think that it limited the story at all. I don't know.
No. It got it backwards, right? That's just, the story was limited. It wasn't because of the format. It was just, they had to tell. And it involved Obi-Wan, it involved Leia, it involved Vader, and
that's why I've said it before, is that I think this was anybody who says there should
Could
be
have
a
been a movie.
season 2, this is a one and done. I think
Yeah.
I think this was about all you could get. I don't know, Fredo, limited? Did it limit it?
No, I mean, on the contrary, and I think I've stated this many times, this is a story that would have worked better as a movie, not only because it would have given you a beginning, middle, and end in one sitting, but because it would have trimmed away some of the ways they had to find to fill time, which it's interesting that the author is complaining about some of the stuff. It's like, well, we having to repeat stuff like, say, Obi-Wan's issues with connected with the Force and not finding Qui-Gon, or the multiple chases, or some of these other stuff that he's complaining about. Well, a lot of that goes away in a 2.5 hour format
Well,
because you have to be more judicious.
and this is he contradicts himself, I think, because first, like I said, I read it. It says 6-episode format limited the story, but what he says here is, taken as a whole, the show felt like a movie plot drawn out over 6 episodes, which led to a significant amount of filler and unwarranted moments that felt like means to pad out the story. In addition, the story scope felt small for such an anticipated series and didn't feel like it warranted a 6-episode series. So pick a lane, dude.
hmm and I think in some ways that the difficult aspect is once they made the decision to put it in Disney Plus and make it a miniseries, 6 episodes, they had to then go back to the original script that they had written for a movie and find ways to make it longer. And okay, maybe we get more Star Wars, which is never a bad thing, but it does lead to that slow start. That leads to those moments where we say, okay, I can't believe Vader's walking away and then leaving them alive and then coming back. Maybe all that kind of goes away because you're not having to manufacture multiple encounters across the 6 hours. You just gotta save it for those few key moments. It seems weird. It seems weird to be complaining about it being not long enough, but also too long. So
All right. Well, let's. Unless Dave, do you have something more on this one? Because I think this next one's going to tick you off big time. Number 4,
Yeah, spirit.
Darth Vader was underwhelming.
boo this man.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
All right, so here's where this goes, right? And I think I've heard this one before, which is Obi-Wan sort of owns him at the end, the very end of the story. Up to that point, he's menacing and larger than life, and everything you want him to be.
Yeah.
And then Obi-Wan kind of pulls one over on him by turning Moses Ingram against him. And then in the final episode, he kicks his butt. But that's gratifying. That's a good feeling.
But from
for
the
the
moment,
audience, if you're invested in this story at all, you want to see Obi-Wan succeed.
every moment that Vader is on screen, he is underwhelming. Is not the where Vader is underwhelming is A New Hope, where
Yeah.
where he was baptized as the baddest villain ever to be created. That's where he's underwhelming, kids. Sorry, but this no. I mean, yeah, you're right. You said it earlier. Rogue One hallway scene. This now ramps that up. I don't know, Fredo.
Yeah, no, I don't see. I mean, I just spent a few minutes ago, uh, praising the portrayal of Vader that Hayden gave us, and yeah, this is this is the Vader that everybody talks about when they talk about him in video games, in books, in comic books, on all the media. When they talk about the terror that is Darth Vader, we get to see him in full display here. I mean, he is not playing around. He's not being nice, and the idea that he's underwhelming here makes no sense with that. Like the only way that he can say it's underwhelming is because you think that he should have been more bloodthirsty, more destructive. I don't know. I mean, from the first time we see him coming down his shuttle to him sitting in Mustafar being told by the Emperor not let it go, uh, he is a presence. And I mean, we kept arguing before the show came out. how they're gonna bring those two characters together and then let them go apart without it feeling cheap. And they found a way, and there's no point where you don't think Vader's not a threat to Obi-Wan or to Leia or to anybody around him.
All right. Well, this one.
Let's just say too, the contradiction in this, it really sort of bothers me because on the one hand, the guy's saying like, we didn't get enough Hayden Christensen, he's wasted, and then on the other hand, you're saying Vader's not present enough or intimidating enough, and it's like, which is it? Which one do you want? Do you want Vader or do you want Christensen? Because in the cowl, in the costume, you're not going to get Hayden.
Yeah.
That's mental to me. Sorry.
So the next one we could probably take a little bit of a breath because I mean, number 3, the music was a disappointing imitation of John Williams. I will say, I mean, of all of the Disney Plus music, and actually, I mean, most of the music from it's that's outside of the saga movies, it's been kind of forgettable. Doesn't mean it's bad. It's just forgettable. I mean, if you were to play something from any of the Disney Plus series, I might get a couple right, but nothing has hit me like the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy, or even some. So I don't know. And I think creators need to be. It's like, hopefully, we talked last week about Giacchino, and maybe we're getting closer to getting some, some recognizable, the baton being hand off, but it's forgettable. So
I guess I don't see it as a worthwhile critique.
Well,
any composer is not John Williams in general, right? I mean,
and to that point, Dave, it didn't ruin my experience of watching Obi-Wan Kenobi. So yeah, go ahead.
Right, you can't luck into Ludwig Göransson every time, right? Like they hit a freaking home run with that when they got him from Mandalorian, but
right.
Like it's just kind of luck of the draw, you take what you can get kind of a thing. And a lot of the musical cues that you would have wanted to hear were kind of there, yeah. I think. And they sprinkled them in. They didn't overdo it. That was fine. I wasn't blown away, but that was fine.
Yeah, first of all, we're talking about Natalie Holt's work outside of, because John Williams did write the leitmotif for Obi-Wan. Whenever you hear the little piece that at the start of the opening credits, that is John Williams. But the rest of the music is written by Natalie Holt. I thought it was fine. I think this is one of the difficulties that anybody who makes a Star Wars project, movie, whatever, how close do you adhere to what John Williams did? Do you go? I mean, Ludwig Göransson was allowed to kind of go doing something because he was whole new character, whole new environment.
Yeah, but still,
this is Obi-Wan, Vader. These are classic characters. You have to call them.
I said when I met Ludwig Göransson, I told him, I said that had to be stressful to be basically the first composer out of the gate to do something new for different. Star Wars that wasn't John Williams, So yeah, that, but again, okay, it's
not the end of the world.
Well, it's not the end of the world, but also that composer knew what they were getting. Any composer knows what they're getting into when they're signing on to Star Wars, is that immediately it's going to be, is it like John Williams? That's like the next quarterback after Drew Brees, after Peyton Manning, after Tom Brady. It's like you are doomed in a way.
Aaron, for the next 50 years of Star Wars projects, everything is going to be compared to John Williams.
Yeah.
Like, it will never go away.
So, but what I'm saying is that that's part of the gig, and so it's like, write what you think is right, and stand by your work. Yeah.
Like I'll give you two quick names: John Murphy, David Fleming. Those are two guys who just wrote the musical score for the new Superman movie, James Gunn's, which brought back John Williams' iconic Superman theme. Now, again, you have two choices when you're making a Superman movie. You either go the way that Zack Snyder did a decade ago and go away from the Superman theme, or you go what James Gunn did, which kind of sort of bring it back, but maybe not quite the whole hog. Or I guess you go do what Superman Returns did and just bring it back full bore.
Bring it
I
back
mean,
all the way.
again, when you're following John Williams, you kind of have to bring some of that work in, whether you want to or not, because it's baked into the foundation of those projects. Whoever has to compose the next adaptation of Indiana Jones, guess what music they better have at that start of those credits? It's the Raiders March
Yeah.
because that's intrinsically linked. It's as much a part of those characters like James Bond's theme is with him, and it's the same way here. Vader's theme is linked with him. You cannot separate the two.
All right. Well, we're at number 2 now, and we've pretty much disagreed with this person all the way. But number 2, lazy writing made the show feel long and slow. I'm going to read his opening paragraph. Said, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series was full of moments that were clearly about stretching the story to a 6-episode limit and felt very forced. For example, in Darth Vader's first confrontation with Obi-Wan, he begins to drag Obi-Wan across the fire and is stopped when he is distracted. Instead of grabbing Obi-Wan again, Vader allows him to escape. I mean, again, to Dave's original point, that it would have been better as a movie. So, I mean, is that lazy writing? Or is it, it's, I don't know.
Padding the time. Again, we go back to the point. If you want to make you can't complain about this thing being a 6-hour show and then complain about the lazy writing. It's like they're intrinsically linked because you're having to stretch a 2-hour movie into a 6-hour miniseries.
But
So there
however,
have to be these moments where they come together and go apart.
I will say, like I said, when I was writing Marching Band Drill, and it was like you were thinking about the big beats that you wanted to hit. Sometimes there were some moves that I wrote where it was just about, it was just to facilitate getting from one point to another, and it didn't reflect what the music was doing there. It was just, I needed to get the trumpets to this point in the field. And I think there was some stuff when they take these that are originally supposed to be movies and they make them into the Disney Plus series. I think there are places like that where it's like, okay, we just need something here to get us from this beat to that beat. And it's like, I'm not saying it happens in a 30-second conversation, but it's like how much time was really given to the scene that is linking the two major scenes. So like I said, I think he overstated his point here, but there is a point to be had.
I think there is a point to be had with this one. This is like the one point I'll concede maybe so far is that there's some padding going on in the series. And it is the nature of what they chose to do. They chose to make it a series instead of a movie. And so there are certain plot points and certain slower scenes that could have been tightened up, could have been better, could have been something else entirely. And so, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't characterize any of it as bad. So, like, that's where you lose me, and that's where I'll raise my hackles up because, like, that's just I think now you're trying to score points, right? Now you're trying to score internet points and win the basher parade that, oh, I got cred now. I've got my I got a bunch of likes on Twitter or a bunch of likes on Facebook or whatever. And it's just, don't do that. Don't do that. Just tell us what you think, but like say, oh, it's bad writing. It's like, well, have you done better? Roger Ebert, very famously, was a long-time movie critic, one half of the Two Thumbs Up duo, and for the younger set. Um, this is why I'm bothering to explain this. If you're our age, you know who Roger Ebert was. Um, but he very famously would get pushed back occasionally. So he wrote a movie eventually. It was, I think it was Return to the Valley of the Dolls. It was not a good movie. And I think like he might have learned something from that experience, which is that A, yes, I can do it, and B, it's really freaking hard. So show a little bit of respect. And I think like that's worth considering when you decide to wade into the critique waters. Roger Ebert was like maybe one of the best writers of our era, and even he understood that like no, you don't need to go absolutely hard in the paint unless you're 1,000% sure you could do better. And that's when he really opened up with both barrels, and that was entertaining, and that was some of the most entertaining writing you could read. But he saved that for those movies that he understood were true travesties that he could have outdone.
Fredo, anything?
No, I think, like I said, we've kind of gone over this a bit. I mean, realistically, there was no way to maybe square that circle once the decision is made to turn this into a miniseries.
Well, all right. Well, then at number 1, the ending makes no sense. And again, reading from this said, since Obi-Wan is a prequel to the original trilogy of Star Wars, certain events shouldn't occur, and certain characters could not die during Obi-Wan Kenobi. For example, the final fight between Kenobi and Darth Vader was only ever going to end one way, but that does not mean that it had to end with Kenobi just leaving Vader alive. The idea that Vader said he killed Anakin and then Obi-Wan just walked away is ridiculous, mainly because the only thing that should have been holding Obi-Wan back was the idea that Anakin was still in there somewhere. Obi-Wan leaving a genocidal villain alive after his past failures is absurd and makes it feel like he learned nothing from Revenge of the Sith. Thoughts? It's quiet. I will say, if there's any part of the ending that bothers me, is that Reva knows about Luke, knows who Luke is, and they let her go off scot-free. That's a big thing. Is like, that that bothers me more than anything, But then, of course, I also like the one. It's like they don't even bother to change his name. They all know who Anakin Skywalker is and who he became, and it's like they didn't. No, your name is John Lars. They call him Luke Skywalker. I mean, it's like anyway, but that whole thing with, I was one of those where it's like, okay, what's Vader and Obi-Wan, what's that fight going to be? Because, yeah, it's going to end in a draw, But it's like the Kessel Run. I was like, we know everybody's going to get out of it, so, but I still was gripping the seat, the seat. And that final fight was more about, that emotional brotherly connection than one killing the other. I don't know, it was I thought it made perfect sense. It worked.
It worked really, really well for Obi-Wan's character arc, and that was all that mattered.
Yeah,
he needed to prove to himself that he still had it, for lack of a better phrasing. He still had it. He had the ability and the capacity to do good, to make a difference, to stand up, and to basically just be a force for change and a force for good. And so when he gets to a point where he incapacitates his opponent, it's not at that point, yeah, sure, he's mourning his friend, understanding that his friend's not coming back. But for him, he doesn't need to finish him off because he's no longer a threat. He had been a threat, but no, he's no longer a threat. So it's like, okay, I'm moving forward. I don't need to kill this person. And I feel like that was the other thing too, is like I think you missed the point of even doing this series again. Like you missed the point of doing this series altogether if you don't see that, because it rhymes with the end of Revenge of the Sith, where he and Yoda tells him, "We have to go kill these two bad guys. We just have to go kill them. There's no other option. We got to do it." He didn't question it. I mean, I can't do it. I don't even know how. I can't. But that's him just saying he doesn't want to do it. But he doesn't question that it needs to be done. He just goes and he does it eventually once he figures out he can't wriggle out of it. But he doesn't think, oh, I can stand up in a way that is meaningful, that doesn't involve me just like murdering someone. And I think and then that's the whole point of Star Wars. I mean, by the end of it, well, you get to the end of Return of the Jedi. That's what Luke throwing away his lightsaber. That's the point. And they reinforce that. I mean, for as painful as Rise of Skywalker is in many respects, they reinforce that. The Last Jedi, they reinforce that. It's not about taking a gun and shooting somebody in the freaking head.
It's not finish him. Yeah.
It's not Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Did you watch Star Wars? Did anybody watch Return of the Jedi? I mean, that's not it. You didn't get it. You got to go back and watch it again. I'm sorry, you didn't understand the whole point of the thing. I mean, that's just, yeah. There's no other option. He's not gonna freaking kill someone in cold blood once they've been incapacitated. The guy's on the ground. He can't breathe. It's like, okay, yeah, now I'm just going to shove my lightsaber through his eye socket. No. I'm sorry, that's not the Jedi way. And Luke showed us that. And here, part of the reason that I adore Obi-Wan as a character is you get to see him make that choice here. And he hadn't previously shown that understanding and that ability to stop himself. Gosh, man. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, overall point of this story, because this is Obi-Wan's story, that's why it's titled Obi-Wan Kenobi, is not about whether or not he kills Darth Vader at the end of it. We know he doesn't. So it's more about him reconnecting with the Force by going through the cathartic process of shedding his guilt. This is a character, I mean, from the very start of the show, he is somebody wrecked with the guilt over his failure. He didn't see Anakin's turn. He couldn't save his brother. He couldn't save his order. Everything he thought he knew fell apart in a blaze of fire by the Sith, and now he's stuck in the middle of nowhere, Tatooine, carving up a great dragon and living out in the Dune Sea, trying to find a way to keep weather eye over a kid who's doing fine and whose family doesn't want him nearby. So he's very much reached a point where he feels disconnected from everything. This journey is about him reconnecting with his mission, with his purpose, with his sense of self. And that ultimately leads him back to that decision that he made on Mustafar. Everybody complains about, oh my gosh, I can't believe Obi-Wan let Vader live here. Let's remember, he walked away from him once before at the end of episode 3. He could have gone force push and Anakin into the lava. That would have solved the problem right then. We've never have had Darth Vader as we know him from that point forward, but he didn't, because that's not him. That's not the Jedi way. That's not who he is as a Jedi. he is brought back to that moment once again at the end of this story, and he's presented with the same decision. And again, by having reaffirmed himself as a Jedi Knight, he does the same thing again. He walks away from his defeated foe. He doesn't need to kill Anakin, or in this case, he doesn't need to kill Darth Vader, because he knows that there's nothing Darth Vader can do to him. He's already, he has, found his way back to the Force. So I kind of understand where they're coming from, because they go like, wait a minute, he's seen him being a mass murdering psychopath who deals death and destruction wherever he goes. But in so many ways, part of the faith of the that Obi-Wan has in the Force is in knowing that he has to trust in the Force and allow its journey, whatever journey that Anakin's going through, to see itself to its natural conclusion. It's very much the same thing that Gandalf tells Frodo in The Lord of the Rings, where it's like, don't be so quick and eager to deal out death and judgment, because we don't know all the ways that things go, and who knows what somebody's journey could lead them to. They could be the worst person, but they may be the one person at the right moment to save everybody. So I don't know.
And that's
It
proven
seems
out. I mean, in Return of the Jedi, that's proven out. That's exactly what happens.
if Obi-Wan pushes Anakin into the lava and Mustafar, or kills him right here, okay, so there's no Darth Vader anymore. Groovy. Palpatine just goes find another apprentice, and maybe he comes for Luke, maybe he comes forever. Again, the story changes, but yeah, you're right. The story bears Obi-Wan's wisdom out and his faith in the Force out.
And I will say there is a subtle difference too between Episode 3 and here, which is in Episode 3, I don't think he's up to it, and he's just like, I don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And here it's like, I have no choice. I am up to it, but I'm not a killer, and I'm not killing you.
Yeah,
That's not what I do.
But also, don't you think that if you chopped off, both legs and an arm, and he's caught on fire, it's like, all right, yeah, it's like better, but it's better odds that he's probably not going to make it. I mean, so that was, it's like, yeah. Anyway,
these guys keep doing this, right? They just keep thinking the guy's dead, and the person's not dead.
They keep underestimating the amount of hate that Anakin carries, and Vader is the ultimate hater.
So, all right. So I think the overall consensus here is that we all agree with Sergeant Hulka from Stripes when he said, "Lighten up, Francis." There are flaws in it. Like there were groaners of, like, when they're sneaking out of the Inquisitor's fortress by the Scooby-Doo method of putting Leia under the trench coat, that type of thing. There was, like I said, the thing, Reva just walking off into the desert after knowing everything. That's the one thing that could cause the whole story to go bad. You just left that plot hole sit there. I know there had to be some sort of redemption arc for her. I get it. So, like I said, none of these things though make me lose sleep over it. It was a good series. Yeah.
I wanted to say too, like, I brought up the Deborah Chow thing. Oh, she's a woman, right? Earlier, and it's because that so much of the criticism levied at this show, and credit this article for not going there, but it's been about Leia, and it's been about
Moses
Reva.
Ingram. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I don't like, I don't like the characterization. It's bad acting or whatever. And again, it comes off as being just misogynistic. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that there should be a place for that in Star Wars. Again, like, Star Wars is for everyone. And I think that's a really popular saying right now. And
100%, and
it's a good show for that.
There was the Star Wars Rebels podcast that I'm listening to. One of the guys that is the host of it, he's their fact checker. He said, honestly, he went into, he was a big Clone Wars fan, and he went into Rebels, he said, with his arms crossed, like, I was, I like the Clone Wars. Now you got this new Disney thing, and blah, blah, blah. He said, but then he said, it was a good show. and I was And he said, so if there's anything he's trying to tell people is, don't go into these things with your arms crossed. I went into Obi-Wan with my arms crossed a little bit. I was like, he's supposed to be on Tatooine watching Luke. It's like taking him off planet was bothersome to me, but I never once thought about, oh, Leia. Yeah, okay. It's that made sense. It made me unfold my arms. It was like, okay. And so we talk about it in this podcast all the time. You don't go in with expectations of, unicorns and rainbows. Just go for the ride. And yeah, so anyway.
Yeah, no, I find that what's interesting is because, again, rewatching it yesterday, I was thinking, I mean, it's weird that Bale's first thought is, they've kidnapped Leia, let's go get Obi-Wan instead of, okay, let's put out an APB, maybe send out some of the troops that we have, maybe a bounty hunter, those kinds of things. But then he quickly explains, I can't really go to anybody else with this because if they start digging why they after her, who is she, they might start digging and find out what really happened. And that secret of Leia's identity is so vital to Bale and his wife to keep hidden that of course they would turn to the one person who they know they can trust it with. So I don't know. I think you're right. I think there is a natural inclination to be like, well, is this going to be like my Star Wars versus other people's Star Wars? It's like, it's Star Wars. Okay, maybe it's not going to hit everything you want. Maybe it's not going to give you all the highs that you want. It's going to give you enough. I mean, again, people still love that final duel, the cinematography, the music. We're complaining about all that stuff, the fight choreography. When Obi-Wan's holding his arms up high and there's boulders flying at Vader, everybody was geeking out about that. Guess what? It still holds up.
Yeah. Well, all right, folks. If you disagree with us, let us know on whatever social media you find us on or on the street corner, stuff like that. Or if you agree with us, let us know then too. But hopefully you just give it another shot. If you didn't like it the first go around, watch it again. And like I said, I'm going to do the same thing with the Acolyte. And I'm going to binge the Acolyte at some point just to see how that plays out. But anyway, until then, we will say who dat.
Who dat?
Who dat?
Everybody have a fantastic week.
McConkey.